We'll take care of you while you're here. Humana will take care of you when you get home. See today's Pathfinder for more information about Humana.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's showtime here at the Dockside Theater. This couple have been entertaining WorldFest audiences for a number of years. They come to us all the way from the Emerald Isle. Would you please welcome Daryl Finnegan and Robin Slater.
Robin Slater as ever.
Don't encourage her, she speaks English. Translated 100,000 welcomes to the Dockside Theatre to WorldFest 2012. Her name is Daryl Finnegan and I am her husband, Robin Slater. And thank you for joining us here this afternoon. The first two tunes we played were two polkas. The first one was called the Ballydesmond Polka and the second one was called the Kerry Polka. And these two areas are on the southwest of the island, and the manner in which we played those represents the kind of people that come from that area, i.e. raucous.
Well, we come from the east coast of Ireland and we live in a small village called Nobber in County Meath, where we're a lot more refined on the east coast. Well, the village I'm from is also a famous village because it is where one of Ireland's greatest harper composers was born in 1670, and his name was Thurlock O'Carolan. And he had quite a very interesting life because he was born into a blacksmith's home, as in that his dad was a blacksmith, a tradition that they passed down for many years. But unfortunately, poor Thurlock fell in love with a lady way beyond his means, as in she was of the gentry class and he was a blacksmith's son, so they were never going to be able to have a future together. And Thurlock's life carries on, and he unfortunately gets smallpox, and unfortunately he's blinded as a result of contracting smallpox. So he can no longer have the tradition of blacksmith. He turns to the harp as his livelihood. And the story is that many years later, when he meets a lady again, he puts his hand out and he reaches forward, and by the touch of his hand he knows that this is Bridget, the love of his life from years before. I know. I don't even believe it myself. But it is a beautiful story, and Thurlock wrote this piece of music in memory of Bridget because he knew their lives were never going to be. And so it has an air of romance to it, but it also has a sense of lament as well. And just in case you get too sad, I'll follow it up by a slip jig then to liven it up a bit.
Well, the instrument I'm playing here is a traditional Irish drum, and it's called a barron. Can you say that? Very good. Now, the barron is completely made of wood, apart from this piece here. This is actually a goat skin, and the goat skin is dried, and it's treated in a very special process, and then stretched very, very tightly over the rim of the drum. Of course, if you don't have a goat skin handy, you could always use a dog skin. But then you'd have to call it a bow-wow-wow-ron. They don't get any better than that. Actually, playing the barron in Ireland is enormous fun, especially when you're playing with elite people such as harpists. It doesn't always go down too well, and if you play the barron really badly in Ireland, they say to you, well, you turn that thing upside down, and everyone use it as a communal ashtray. Yeah, it's not much fun, but thankfully it doesn't happen too often. It reminds me of a little story of an American tourist that arrives off the beautiful shores of Inishmore on the western side of the island. And as he arrives on his little boat, all he can hear is the constant drumming of the barron. He says to the captain, "What's that?" And the captain says, "Well, that's the barron." He says, "Does it ever stop?" He says, "Something awful happens when the barron stops." He goes ashore, goes to the reception of his motel, he checks in. He says to the receptionist, "That barron, does it ever stop?" She says, "Something awful happens when the barron stops." He scuttles into the back room. all night long, the constant drumming of the baron. He has little sleep. He wakes up in the morning with a splitting headache. He's had enough. He grabs the nearest local, pins them up against a tree, and says, "Tell me, what happens when the baron stops?" And the terrified local looks at him and says, "Harp solo!"
Yeah.
Hi, Dermot. Lovely shoes you wear.
Too late for that. You know the difference between a boron and a trampoline? You take your shoes off to jump on a trampoline. Who's winning now?
Charming.
Well, I'd love to play a harp solo, and this two pieces of music. The first piece is from our neighbouring country of Wales, and the Welsh people have a beautiful language and lovely music, and also a style of harp playing unique to them too. And this piece of music is called the Queen's March, and then I'm going to follow it with a totally different genre style of music from Argentina, and it's called Milonga.
You like some baron with that?
No.
Thought I'd ask.
We're going to open the floor and let you ask any questions you'd like to know about Ireland, about us, about the instruments, whatever you're curious about. We'd be delighted to answer any questions you may have. So we're going to continue with a piece of music composed by a harpist called Deborah Henson-Kant, and she wrote this in memory of her mum. Her mum she named the Nightingale because she sang her to sleep every night. And there are beautiful words to the tune as well. Who will sing for the nightingale? Her own sweet song is silent now. Who will sing for the nightingale as she sleeps alone in the sun. So Robin and I would like to dedicate it to all the people that have been special in our lives, and of course still are, but have passed it on in front of us. So this is for all those people that we have fond memories of.
questions you'd like to ask us? Be curious about anything.
Where she got her shoes from?
Yes.
What's one of the biggest differences between Ireland and the United States?
Is this a joke?
I'll answer that because he can't take anything serious. The biggest difference is probably, well, first of all, let me just tell you that here, this area and Ireland have a lot of similarities. First of all, that's the biggest thing, because we've travelled all over the States plain, and definitely the Midwest has the same pulse or kind of rhythm as Ireland has. I don't get that when I go either coastline, and no offence to anybody from the coast, but there's a difference to it. Here is very similar to Ireland, with rolling hills and that as well, so that's another sim. I can understand why a lot of Irish immigrants came to this, because it feels like home from home, for sure. Food is huge for us. We find it really difficult to settle into eating food here. Really, like, who came up with biscuits and gravy? You know?
For breakfast.
That's just wrong. You know? And what's the other thing? Pork scratchings we saw. Is that the other thing we saw? But yeah, so food is one thing for sure. What are you laughing at? Did I say that?
Just thinking of stories.
Oh.
Travels, years.
Oh yeah, driving is another major thing. Yeah, we drive on the other side of the road, the correct side of the road.
In America, I do all the driving and she does all the screaming.
That's actually true, yeah.
Now, one of the biggest differences for me when I first came to America was going to the store to actually buy some groceries. And when we got to the cash register, she said, paper or plastic? And I just looked at her and, pardon? She went, paper or plastic? And I went, cash. It's a true story.
Unfortunately, that is true.
I was working in a restaurant in Dublin before I met Derval, and first time American tourists had come into the restaurant, and it was an Italian restaurant, and they asked for a box to take their food away. I brought them an apple box. I didn't know. And they said, "What's that?" And I said, "You asked for a box." Because we don't take our food away in Ireland.
You just forget about a portion size that you nearly lick your plate after it. So you certainly don't have extra food to take away with you. But there are lots and lots of differences. But as I say to you, for us, we feel very at home here. So
It's cheaper here.
Yes, it's a lot cheaper in the United States.
She goes home with 10 pairs of shoes.
What is this story with the shoes? I
You
don't
know
hear
what I'm
that.
talking about. Act innocent with me.
Yes. I heard beautiful music in Danny Boyle. Is that where are you asking us, would you like to play it for you? Of course we play it for you if you'd like to hear it. Yeah, sure. We can do that. We'll take one or two questions for, and then we'll play it for you. Yes?
How many harps did you bring with you?
I love harps, yeah. Not enough is my answer to that. I only brought this one harp. This is my Irish harp that I brought from home with me. And then this harp here has been given to me for the use of WorldFest. And both of them were made by an Italian harp making company called Salvi. And they have sponsored this harp for WorldFest. But I really love it. It's gorgeous. Hint, hint.
Hint all you like.
Very slow.
I'm not budging.
It's only 24,000. Isn't that lovely?
She already has one at home. How greedy can you get?
Yes.
I noticed that when you play, you also move the harp back and forth
Yes.
towards you. Does that make the sound?
No, that's me rocking the harp back and forth. I'm totally oblivious to the fact that I'm doing it, I must admit. No, I think it's just me getting lost in what I'm doing. No, it makes no difference. When I want louds or softs in playing the harp, there are no pedals here for that. I have to create it all with the pressure of my hands. So, loud, the very same thing. It's just whatever my touch on the strings that gives the dynamics. There are pedals down here. There are 7 pedals on the concert harp, and each one of these pedals controls one note in the scale. So over here, You have a D. If I press the pedal to the floor, I have a D sharp. If I let it up halfway, it's a D natural, and then a D flat. I think that's how they got jazz, but so that's what they're used for. And on the Irish harp, there are no pedals, but there are levers at the top here, and you can only move them one direction, so it restricts the amount of music you can play with semitones. So more of a folk instrument and more of a general concert classical style instrument.
One flute, solid silver, keys all the same, 16 keys. Difficult to play.
Same pair of shoes, yeah. How old was I? I was almost 14 years of age. Yeah, which is quite old really in some ways, because now I would teach most students around 6 or 7 years of age to get started. Once they're able to write or say anything, I think they should get started on it if they want. Yeah, but my dad, I had 3 older brothers, and my dad he just didn't have enough time, so I had to wait in line for my classes because it was a 3-hour round trip to take me to my harp class, so I had to wait for it till Mondays became free for me. Anybody else? And then we're going to do Annie Boyfriend. Yes, sorry, 2 people here. Go ahead, you come for Robin, have you?
Yes.
Yes.
On the drum, I noticed your hand moving in the back. Your hand making a difference.
Yes. If I don't push my hand against the skin, it's going to be very resonant. So by pushing it in, you can actually alter the tone. Very difficult.
Would you like me to show you how to do it? I told him yesterday. I don't know what the fuss about.
Wait till you get one. Yeah, so it is very difficult. But by pushing it in, yeah, you can alter the tone. So if I play in pushing it in at the top and hitting the top, you're going to get a very tight sound. So you're up and down. Yeah, and it's tunable as well.
If you only ever tune it. This man had a
How much a year do you spend in Ireland? How much in the States or other places?
probably half and half, 5 or 6 months here in the States touring, and then the other half in Europe. So I shouldn't say just in Ireland, but in Europe as well. So at home in our own house a couple of months of the year. Yeah. We do have a dog, so we do need to go home and take care of her.
She calls me any name, you know.
Yeah, sorry. Pardon? Robert. Our dog's name? No. I don't understand your love. What were you meaning by it? Oh, okay.
Is he making fun of me?
You should.
Stop harping on.
I think we're about time to finish now. I have no idea. Okay, we're going to finish off with Danny Boy, but Gurmila Mila Malgrave, thank you very, very much for coming in to see us today. We truly appreciate it, and we appreciate Similar City and inviting us back each year, so thank you then. And Slán was banned until
Just before we go, if you've enjoyed any of our music, we do have some CDs available on the table over there. Maybe you'd like to take a memory of us home, or just take me.